Ignoring issues never makes it go away. Actually, whatever we choose to ignore or to deal with now only compounds over time, just like a debt with an interest. If you don't pay the interest in due time, it compounds. By the time you repay that interest, whatever loan, whatever it is that has accrued that interest, well, it becomes quite expensive. Same things with issues in life. It doesn't matter the complexity of the matter. Choosing to ignore it doesn't make it go away. It just makes it compound to a bigger issue that could be resolved. For example, let's look at a pothole. A pothole starts with a small hole, right? Over time, cars, all types of vehicles, small, heavy, pass through the same place. Same hole, remember. Now, as time progresses, there's some short rains or long rains. So that small hole keeps expanding and it keeps expanding. Over time, what was once small becomes big. And now the same vehicles using the same road end up falling or end up damaging their shocks and other parts of their cars because of that one small hole that was never sealed in due time. Whatever we choose to ignore in life always comes back to bite us. Even when you run away from issues, you can do something wrong or bad in a particular place and run and say, you know what, this is gone, I'm done, I'm never looking back. Well, many years later, either you or your child or your bloodline will go to the exact same place, sadly without the history of what happened to why you ran away, only for them now to face the reality of the consequences of the choices you made at that time. How many times do we see this in history, whether looking from general history or even from a theological part of it? We always see a simple pattern. No matter how many times we run away from a place or from an area because of the complexities of the issues, as someone in that bloodline always goes back again. It's one of those things, can't really explain it sometimes because it's so into our genes that it just happens. Whatever we choose to ignore comes back. Let's look at it like even abuse, and we're talking about, you know, sexual abuse in this case. What do we come to learn? Sadly, when when someone has gone through that horrific experience, if that information is never relayed to anyone, maybe close enough or who could be above assistance, sadly, another person becomes a victim. And then one day an incident happened, and then people realize, hold up, it happened to you, it happened to me, it happened to them, it happened to everybody. And then everybody's thinking, there goes the monster who did it. But the damage by that time is like a whole community was damaged. Because sometimes, no matter how much we run from things, no matter how painful it is, if we don't take the little steps to deal with it, it gets back. For example, if you go to trauma, whichever level of trauma it may be, and as an individual who don't take those baby steps to try and go through the healing journey, the truth of the matter is, if you're not cautious and careful, those unresolved issues that you didn't deal with in the very beginning, or you choose to ignore, either ignoring by the amount of materialistic or consumerist lifestyle that you live, or drowning it all in intoxication, the truth of the matter is that issue never dies off. And over time, that issues will always crop up. And let's say you find yourself as a parent or as a guardian to someone. Remember those unresolved issues that you didn't deal with at the time? They will come up. And you'll end up uttering or acting or physically doing things that you never have done in the very beginning. That does not excuse the behavior of the wrong, but that keeps reminding us that unresolved issues always compounds over time. The scariest part about it is, what does it compound to? And at the time and stage at which it compounds to, it becomes very messed up. Let's look at, for example, even things like, governments and corruption. If the issues are not addressed in due time with the accountability and everything, we end up having failed systems that cannot work or operate. Today, you do not have money. Today, you might have the money. Tomorrow, you do not have. Remember, nobody chooses to be homeless ideally. Think about it this way. I'm talking about from the context whereby you're not into gambling, you're not into drugs, you're working. It doesn't matter if you're self-employed or employed. I mean, you're literally putting food on the table. Anyone in this world can be homeless. You can be homeless based on one, you can have an health issue, or someone close to you, a family member, and you end up taking loans and end up putting your house of insecurity, or your cars or other properties. Eventually you can't keep up the loan, because remember, every time you take up a loan, it has an interest rate. It has the market interest rate that is increasing, and then you also have now the global inflation, which actually kicks it harder. And when you start doing the math, what was on small has become so compounded, you can't keep up, so you lose your home and you're homeless. It could be that there are decisions that you've made over time, investment decision, and you made just one wrong move and your home is gone. It could be natural disasters, whether man-made or natural disasters. You are homeless. Anyone can be homeless. Anyone can be homeless. There is no there's no right or wrong of what. No, anyone can be homeless. It doesn't matter. You could be in a country that was peaceful, turned into the most chaotic country in the all of a sudden homeless. You could be, raise your kids well, your kids rise against you, homeless. You could be sleeping and resting well, then disaster strikes you, homeless. Nobody chooses, exclusive of now those who rightfully get into debts knowing that they are gambling their lives. I'm talking about those ones who never gamble their lives. So that's the sad thing about life. Any issue that we choose to ignore sadly will always compound. The magnitude of it is what's even scary, because now when these things happen, you can't. Going back to like corruption, for example, the more you do not hold agencies and policies and don't put policies to try and curb up, what happens over time is systems start failing. Your health system fails, education system fails, your security system fails. Now everything is compromised. Now scammers are in. Two, you can't be able to differentiate between what's real and what's fake. And eventually you're all now trying to fight for the bare minimum. And in that scenario, wherever it is, now money becomes scarce, food becomes scarce, and survival for the fittest. And there's nothing as scary as survival for the fittest, because man turns into barbaric. For example, if you look at many cases of many people who ended up stuck in forests or end up stuck in let's say it's an accident, it fell somewhere, the plane fell somewhere, or the car crashed somewhere, and they were in this area deserted for a long time. And let's say there were five people, you always hear a very sad pattern that five reduced to three. If you ask the person, how did you reach to three? Well, two of them ended up in the tummy. They're trying to survive. There's nothing scary like people turning into survival, because you can never predict anyone. Even right now, when you look at life, it's easy, for example, to see someone in the world of content whereby they're like, the big following and everything. But behind the scenes, they're trying to keep up, sorting out their bills and everything. And so when they're outside, like just the normal casual person, maybe going to buy a bread or something, someone is like, hey, you buy bread like us? Hey, you walk instead of driving? Hey. So now the expectations have been placed on them based on what is perceived and the kind of lifestyle they've lived. And everybody's thinking, what are they doing in our side of town? So the thing is, no matter how bad it is, no matter how complex it is, you can't resolve like the bigger issues. Some of these issues are way external beyond us. For example, when two nations trying to go head to head with each other, honestly, in that case, how do you win? The only way is to survive, but in a way that you try and, I don't know, it becomes tough when you think about it. But I'm talking about the things that we can be able to deal with. Issues, if you see like two little children, they are kids or they are siblings, they are young or they are little kids, and they're fighting, being able to stand in the gap and warn them and say this is wrong helps a lot, because if you don't solve it when they're young, how many sibling rivalry parents watched, did nothing about it, and they ended up becoming big adults and mature, and it became a Cain and Abel situation. Anything can happen if we don't resolve it. Unresolved issues just compounds to become problems that we cannot resolve at the time and at the place that these things come to occur. You can never predict anger and bitterness on anyone. You can never know the trigger, because everyone is going through something and you really don't know what is pushing people to where they are. Not everybody woke up and chose to be in a particular career. It was different issues that pushed them there. But the question is, will you take up that leap of faith and deal with that issue, whichever it is, one baby step at a time? Or will you let it go, let it compound, and let it eat you up? It's a choice.